I think, Kathy, the only one I've really been involved with to any degree has been Council of Michigan Foundations, and was really introduced to it by my predecessor at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, Howard Kellaward, because he was there at the time that the council was really formed, and so introduced me to it from day one, and had the pleasure of course, working with Dottie Johnson, subsequently Rob Collier, Russ Mawby, who was one of the key people in founding the council, and others, and had the great fortune of serving on the board and as vice chair at one point, and actually left the board when I became the chair of the leadership team at the Council of Foundations, because I didn't feel I could do both. And that was a time at the national level where time was required. But I also served on the Community Foundation Ventures board, and as chair at one point of that, and the Community Foundation Committee of the Council of Michigan Foundations. And so I had lots of fun working with lots of great people like yourself when you were at the council. 25 years to the day, and I just read something here at the Johnson Center that Dottie was president of the Council of Michigan Foundation for 25 years, and I didn't know that. So it was actually to the day. That was the day I retired. My dad worked in the White House for 40 years as a civil servant, from Hoover's administration through Nixon's first term. So I saw my mom, volunteer in the Girl Scouts with my sisters and do a few things around the church, but I honestly don't know if they were philanthropic. But I had an experience as a young kid with a friend in the neighborhood who choked to death one night. And I remember as a small kid saying, I hope someday I'll have enough money to be able to help do something so that this doesn't occur. Now, why I said it back then, I have no idea, Kathy, other than I was probably grieving over my friend's death. I never thought about philanthropy. I guess I didn't volunteer much growing up as a kid. I kind of ended up in higher education because people had pushed me along the way and it encouraged me. I learned how to fundraise, so to speak, in higher ed, and went to foundations for support of my institution of higher ed. I kind of wore blinders. I had enough pigeonholes that I could probably keep a handle on in higher ed. And one day, I had a conversation with Howard Kellaward about the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. He mentioned, and I was there looking for grant support. He mentioned that they were looking for an assistant. And I said, I could tell he was uneasy. He had never had an assistant. I said, oh, Howard, anybody, lots of people would love to work with you, including myself. He called me a few days later and said, did you mean what you said? And I said, you're talking about the grant request? He mentioned the position. I said, gee, I don't know. So I talked to my wife. She beamed because we had 3 teenage sons. So I applied, went through the national search process, and was selected. I took a pay cut. I gave up 3 college tuitions, but allowed us to stay in Kalamazoo, which was a community we'd come to love. And my board chair, or vice chair at the college, and the nuns said, we don't want you to leave, but if there's any place you're gonna go, this would be the best place for you to go. The vice chair was the brother of the chair of the Community Foundation board. So everything was open and above board, which is the only way I like to operate. So I was selected and realized I knew nothing about the Community Foundation. I didn't know anything about all these various funds. I had to learn about the various systems that existed, so I actually would meet with nonprofit folks to teach me about the various systems about disabled youth and what families faced. I ended up buying rental property, partly so I could learn about what low-income people face who have to get housing vouchers and assistance and are homeless. And so I had so much to learn. And I learned from day one the wide variety of issues community foundations are involved in. I used to say that I might wake up in the morning and the first thing on the agenda is we're going to talk about the environment. The next hour might be economic development. The next hour may be homelessness. The next hour may be the arts and humanities. Every moment I was learning something new about the community and the issues facing members of our community and the passion and the love people had to solve issues. But I had so much to learn, and I thought I knew quite a bit in higher education, but I only knew a small sliver. So it was kind of a eye-opening experience, and every day of my life in those 25 years were eye-opening experiences. Andy and I created a donor-advised fund at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation quite a number of years ago now. Portion of our estate will flow into that when we are gone, and it will become unrestricted at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And about a year ago, we asked if a portion of it could allow for distributions outside of Kalamazoo County, because we have 3 kids who live outside Kalamazoo County. And last summer, we indicated to each of the families that they had access to a very small amount of money for decision-making by their families for distributions in their community. Now, they haven't done anything yet. And then every once in a while, Andy and I say, they haven't done anything yet. She says, I'll remind them. But we hope, and we see in our kids also volunteerism in a certain way. Whether or not we've done as good a job, Kathy, as we would have liked, but I remember when you spoke in Kalamazoo about families and giving and how important that is. And my hope is that our grandkids, our own kids when they're able. I do have a son who owns a business here in Grand Rapids. It's a fundraising consulting business, and he works with nonprofits on capital campaigns. I know he and his family are quite philanthropic.